When you want to sketch a parametric equation like this, okay, x equals to cos square t and y equals to sine cube t, be careful of this. This is the domain that the question has set for you. This means that you cannot include zero, okay, cannot include when t equals to zero or when t equals to pi. So when you sketch the points that cannot include, right, first you sub it in first. So when t is equals to zero, I know that my x is equals to cos square 0, and that is equals to 1, and y is equals to sine cube 0, and that is equals to 0. So at 1 comma 0, you cannot include means you have to draw a dot that doesn't fill the circle. Okay, so H2 math and curve sketching is very particular about whether you know the points can include or cannot include. Same thing, when t is equals to pi, your x is equals to cosine square pi. Cosine pi is equals to -1, but when you square it, it will become 1. Okay, let me just put it nicely. And for your y, when sine is equals to pi is equals to 0, so this is still 0, and it is still 1 comma 0. This point you have to put as a dot over here. Okay, so now when you go to your GC, okay, remember, be careful when you want to plot parametric, please go to mode and change this from function to parametric, and then now you press y equals to, I've already keyed in the equation. When you want to do cosine square t, you cannot put cosine t and then square it. You have to put a bracket in front first, as well as for sine square. Now, by default, right, the window, the t minimum will be set as 0. T maximum, this value corresponds to 2 pi. Okay, but because your question is talking about 0 to pi, you have to change it to pi. Now, if you didn't change it, you will get two graphs that is on top and below. Okay, so you have to change the maximum value of t to pi only, which is 3.1415, okay, or 16, doesn't matter. Okay, so now when you press graph, only the top part is exists. Okay, how do we translate this into a sketch? You draw your x-axis and your y-axis. You know that over here is 1, and you know over here is 1 as well. Okay, now remember, 1 comma 0, 1 comma 0 has to be not inclusive, so I'm going to use red to draw the graph. Okay, label your y-axis as well as your x-axis. Use red to draw the graph. It will come from the top, and then until here. At this point, you have to show that it is not inclusive. Okay, and this is how you sketch a parametric curve when there are restrictions given to you like that. Now, what about this point 0 comma 1? It doesn't matter, because when is it at 0? When is cosine equals to 0? Cosine t equals to 0 is when t is equals to pi over 2. This is just in the middle of the equation only. So in this case, it doesn't matter. Always only look at the extreme points, sub in the 0 and sub in the pi. Okay. Now, when you see the graph as well, the graph will not tell you where 0 is, because in your window, right, you have to key in 2 pi as your maximum. But when you key in, sorry, we have to key in pi as your maximum. When you key in pi as your maximum, the graph is always inclusive. So questions in A levels is testing you whether you know when to exclude the certain points or not, and how you can read this to translate into your